All right, so it's Nate. This is the 80/20 drummer. I intended to have only one special guest, but it appears that I have two special guests. The most important of the special guests is my buddy Sam and I over here. People have been asking me to do a lesson on how to play with bass players for a while. Sam was in town. One of the rare moments he's not on tour, so he very graciously agreed to stop by and help me out. So we're going to see if we can keep this train on the rails. We were talking before this lesson, and a lot of people, when they coach jazz combos, about how to play jazz drums with jazz bass, there's a lot of focus on like locking up with the quarter note and playing a 4-feel or a 2-feel. So we're going to get to that stuff, but I want to get into it a little bit backward. So let's actually start from how do you play drums behind a bass solo? And it's kind of the perfect context to think about that because Sammy and I are a duo here. And if we were to actually play a real gig now, we would probably play in a much more soloistic way. We wouldn't be playing a 4-feel and pretending there was a sax player. It's going to be much more conversational. So I want to start out just off the top with one chorus of one of my favorite tunes, All the Things You Are. And we're just going to do one chorus, and then I'm going to jump into a couple exercises that we talked about beforehand that we both feel will be sort of beneficial to open up your conception, man. So without further ado, let's hit it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, killing. So you guys see why Sammy is one of my favorite players to play with, and it's always fun when he's in the rare times when he's available to play. So let's break down a little bit of a couple of things that went into that. And one thing that I think about when I'm playing with bass players is in kind of what space of the rhythmic matrix we are. And you don't really necessarily need to play with each other. You can play off each other. But even having that meta concept in mind of like playing together or playing separately, it turns out can be useful to open up some things. So now let's do two choruses. I'm going to ask Sammy to play mostly downbeat oriented quarter note type of motifs. And for the first chorus, this is going to be really long, isn't it? Let's do for the A section, you're playing quarters and downbeats. I'm mostly playing with you. And for the second half of the tune, I'm playing mostly against you in kind of an upbeat type of way. So try it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Killing. And you guys are going to find out in just a second exactly how killing Sammy is when I try to take the same role. So now let's switch and we'll do a chorus of, and since we already did playing together with downbeat, let's just do a whole chorus of you playing mostly upbeat things. And in the first half, I'm going to play against Sammy, and I'm going to try to hold the mostly downbeat pulse. And then in the second half, I'm going to go with him more and then we'll speak about the things to kind of keep reference to the downbeat so that we can both go off in a direction, but the time and the form stay there. Totally forgot what we're doing. Right. So you're playing upbeatish solos. I'm holding the time down the first half, then going with you the second half. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, man, that was great. That was great. So I will say from my perspective, first person, when Sammy's playing upbeats and I'm playing downbeats, there's a big pull to go with him, and I feel a lot more responsibility. I feel like my brain needs to be bifurcated. But one advantage we have with the drums is we have a polyphonic instrument. So you can always you can even just keep half notes. I mean, speaking of all the jazz orthodoxy, the way jazz is taught versus the way people actually play, I think it's perfectly acceptable to do something like 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, in some contexts, that would work beautifully, depending on the acoustics of the room and everything else. But so in that case, there was more responsibility on me to make allegiance to the downbeat with some part of my body. That sounded dirty. And then in the second half, it was sort of more exploratory, but I think that responsibility for keeping the time in place, not letting it rush or drag, and keeping reference to the form kind of shifted to both of us. And that's a really great feeling when you're playing with a bass player, when you know you're sort of equally sharing responsibility. And then if you're playing with someone who's not, that can be a drag. So I want to do one more kind of micro concept, and then we'll zoom out, and that's this a 1, a 3 thing. So to demonstrate it really quickly on the drums, if you're just thinking 8 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So that's one way to do it. And then if you reverse that, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to do one chorus of Sammy holding this part down, 3, 4, the kind of heartbeat, and I'm going to play half of it with him and half of it against, and then we're going to do one chorus of me holding it down, and Sammy's going to try to play against that a little bit. We'll see how that goes, see if it stays on the rails. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, man, right away there, like we got into some interesting territory. Something that I hear a lot with like Orlando LaFleming playing with Will Vincent and Aaron Parks. I hear Joe Infinity Sanders do a lot. Kind of as like a big portion of the pie of their bag is like accelerated and delayed harmonic rhythm, right? Like that's kind of the hip thing. But it's like by accident, just because Sammy was forcing himself to play in a different part of the beat than I was. We already got into that. So on my end, I felt extreme responsibility for keeping the tempo up. Because by the time I wait for the signal to hit him and then bounce off and then come back to me, if I'm on the back side of that, it's going to slow down. So I have to be really thinking and pushing it ahead. And the other thing is in the second half, where he was kind of creatively incorporating like the roots into some of those offbeats or some of those non-one parts of the bar, I felt responsibility for keeping the harmonic rhythm in my head as slightly separate from what I was hearing with my ears. So then you start to get into some pretty interesting things. So now I want to broaden out conceptually and not be so specific, and we're going to do one chorus of trying to play as differently as possible from each other while staying in the same rhythmic matrix. And then we're going to do one chorus of trying to play as similarly as possible. So the chorus one will be like chasing but not catching, and then chorus two will hopefully be catching. We'll see what comes out. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Killer. So I feel like in those two scenarios, well, let me describe what happened in the second half, because that was super interesting. At first, like I was really sort of left brain self-consciously trying to find Sammy and lock up with him. And then like a kind of trust set in that he was enough better than I was that he would find me. So then I could just kind of relax and play. But I feel like at the end,
that's exactly what happened to me too.
Nice,
yeah.
Nice. You're like, well, I'll catch him. Like he's not smart enough to come up with anything.
Opposite. I was like, oh, what am I gonna play here? Oh, let me just trust him.
Nice. Well, I feel like that's what you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
So it's like to underscore, there's kind of the Maslow hierarchy. Matt Wilson talks about it, right? It's like functional, creative, inspirational. Mm-hmm. So it's like at baseline, we both have to trust that each other can keep the time functionally. So it's like, he's not going to drag if I take my eye off the ball. I'm not going to rush. And then beyond that, I think once you have that basic tier, like it's really nice if a bass player and a drummer can trust each other that neither of us is going to fuck up the form. Mm-hmm. So we both have some freedom to explore within the form. Mm-hmm. And then above that, we can do like these exercises or wherever. By the way, we'd never do this in real life, but it's kind of an interesting experiment, like breaking it down a little bit. And then you just can, where you hope you arrive at is a spot where your left brain is not on anymore. You're just hearing stuff and playing it. Folks, you know the drill. If you have been checking out my channel for a minute and you feel like you're ready to go deeper, I recommend my product, the 80/20 coaching course. But if you'd like a gateway drug to that, something that's available to you for dirt cheap, that'll help you get a taste of what my paid products are like, I recommend the 80/20 roadmap. And through the magic of editing, there's going to be a nice graphic here in front of me on the screen. So this is how I make the money. The 80/20 roadmap, most Germans make some version of the same 3 mistakes. Triage those mistakes, get through them, start getting better. Yeah, pick one up today. And get one as a gift. Guys, it's been real. I'm Nate, this is the 80/20 drummer. Thanks again to Sammy. Be back soon for another lesson of the week. One love.
I hit it down. I hit an offbeat on that.
Oh, it was okay.
Yeah, no, we were right. We were together. You can edit that.